Okay.
Which camera do we want? The live view?
Yeah.
It's like meet up.
What
It's probably that we need to wave our hand over it, but let me focus it.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can focus it.
Just tilt it a little bit. Or zoom it.
Why is it?
We are resuming open session.
If you run your hand over it, it should.
No, we're not yet. Open session. So
Okay.
we're saying
He's gonna run his hand over it and just focus issue. It's that. Oh wait, blurred. Sorry. You know what?
You got it blurred.
It says I don't know
You're
who blurred
good.
it.
Okay, you're good. You're good.
All right.
You're good now.
Okay.
Good.
Can you hear me
We
now?
are ready to resume open session and reconvene Zoom.
So we're going to hear from some students on one topic about Shakespeare.
Yes.
So this is the opposite of how I feel of your endeavors, which is that life is but a poor player who struts and frets his hour upon the stage and is heard from no more. It is a tale told by an idiot full of sound and fury and signifying nothing.
My favorite line is that.
I made this for
Okay, so with that, our student showcase. So
It looks like they're ready to take the
yeah, this was a kind of a, I mean, let's go to work. All it took was a little line, and you're in. Good.
Hi, I'm Simone Ramirez.
And I'm G. Kennedy.
And we are members of the Shakespeare Slam team. I am a co-captain this year. This is my second year on the team.
And I'm a peer coach this year.
And so we wanted to start with just a little description of what we do. So we meet starting like around last month, and we are cutting a 5-minute scene from any Shakespeare show. So this year we chose a scene from Hamlet, and then we are assigned a show that all other schools in the region are assigned. So this year is Romeo and Juliet, and we have to take the text of that show, and if we want to, any other published written piece, and combine it and write basically our own scene and story with it, but only use the text of Shakespeare. It's a really cool time, and then we compete with it with other schools.
So this is the 12th year that this club is running here at Kira, and we have placed in finals 3 times, and we have one place.
Yes, we are hosting the regional bout this year on November 4th in the Little Theater. So we're really hoping to be able to win this year and go to finals, and finals are at Navy Pier. And next month, it's run by Chicago Shakespeare Company, and the club itself is sponsored by Mr. Bell.
So I guess I'll just talk on my experience here. So I was in a couple of shows here at Okra, and I was in The Tempest. So if you guys are familiar with that, it's a love story dealing with this huge storm that throws a bunch of people together in really chaotic, messy, fun, weird ways. And I really enjoyed my time here at Shakespeare Center because it was kind of an extension of that. I really got to continue to work with these really fun, creative ways and explore acting and other things. Fun.
It's a really fun experience. The team itself is really small. There's only about 8 people, and then we have 2 peer coaches, 2 student peer coaches, and I believe that's the limit for the amount we're about to have. So we're all really close, and we all get to work together. It's really very much a collaborative effort from all of us. And the regional bout is open attendance. So if you want to come, you don't need a ticket. If you just come watch it in the Little Theater, November 4th. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is our student council liaison. I see you.
All right, good evening. I'm happy to announce that our homecoming was a great success. We had 2,600 students in attendance, and the student council hopes to continue the excitement and success of the dance next year. In our first meeting back after homecoming, we held a pizza party to thank all of our members for their participation during homecoming week, and we also got their opinions and ideas about the dance. We also collaborated with another club, Letters of Love, whose purpose is to provide emotional support to children battling cancer and other serious illnesses through handmade cards. And we did just that. The leader of the club, Ryan Adelstein, held a card workshop where we made a total of 85 cards. Our club's meetings are always a good time for us to get students' opinions, issues, and concerns. And one of the topics that comes up most often is having electronic payments in the lunchroom. Students have become very accustomed to electronic payments and don't normally carry cash. So when students don't have any more money on their IDs or they're not able to leave for lunch and they don't have cash, it can be sometimes hard for them to find a ways to get lunch. And another topic students mentioned is another door being opened in the morning, specifically door 10, which is the field house door that goes out to the mall. All the student parking is on the south side of the school. So when students are walking in the building, they're passing all these other doors just to enter in through the north end of the school. And it adds a lot of time to their commute to school. And if we also left the doors open for just a little bit longer, it would allow students to have better attendance and more time in the classroom. And just having like a 5-minute buffer would greatly benefit all the students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Superintendent, okay, I have two announcements to share here. First, we have some outstanding news to report about our 2023 advanced placement exam results. First, Oak Park and Reverse High School has been named to College Board's AP Scholar Honor Roll. The honor roll recognizes 4 levels of distinction: platinum, gold, silver, and bronze, based on 3 criteria. OPRF earned silver distinction based on the following results for students graduating the class of 2023. We received silver status for college culture, which in this case meant that we had 59% of our students taking at least one AP exam during high school, our senior class, I should say. We earned gold status for college credit, with 47% of our student class scoring a 3 or better on at least one AP exam during high school. And we earned gold status for college optimization, with 12% taking 5 or more AP exams during high school, with at least one of the 5 taken during 9th or 10th grade. So kudos to the outstanding class of 2023. And in addition, an incredible 363 students received AP Scholar Awards across 3 categories, and these are not easy to earn. 155 students received the AP Scholar Award for receiving scores of 3 or higher on 3 or more AP exams. 72 students received the AP Scholar with Honor Award for receiving an average score of at least 3.25 on all AP exams taken and scoring 3 or higher on 4 or more of those exams. Finally, we had 136 students earn the AP Scholar with Distinction Award for receiving an average score of at least 3.5 on all AP exams taken and scoring a 3 or higher on 5 or more of those exams. Outstanding achievements, and congratulations to all the students for their tremendous academic achievements. Congratulations as well to senior Anja Herman, who was honored by First Lady Jill Biden at the White House in celebration of International Day of the Girl. Anja was just one of 15 young women in the country who were recognized for leading change, and shaping a brighter future in communities across the United States. Anja, who was nominated by history teacher Lisa Faulkner, was selected for her work as a disability rights activist and advocate for equity and inclusion. Since 2021, she has served as the youngest appointed member of the Village of River Forest Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Advisory Group, and she is emerging as a national leader with her research, speaking, engagements, and publications. A truly exemplary, outstanding accomplishment. Congratulations to her. In athletic news, we had 2 students who qualified to compete at their state tournaments. Congratulations to girls varsity tennis freshman Lucy Stein and coach Fred Deluzzo. And kudos to boys varsity golfer Will Newman and coach Bill Young. I also have 2 other things that I would like to share. Number 1, hot off the presses, just a few moments ago, maybe an hour or so ago, our girls volleyball team took the regional championship here downstairs in our field house. So congrats to that fabulous team. And I would be remiss if I did not make another announcement by way of recognition. Normally we talk about regional championships and those things like that by athletic. Our boys soccer team throughout the season was ranked #1 in the state and ranked in the single digits throughout the country. Just an incredibly solid team, one of the best teams we've had. And they did not lose a game all season long. A heart-wrenching loss in the regionals. 2 overtimes, they lost in the shootout 5-4. Crestfallen, handled it with nothing but the highest of class, which had to be an extraordinarily challenging thing to do. But they deserve recognition for what was an incredibly memorable, special, and impressive season nonetheless. So kudos to that group of boys and to Jason Freed, their head coach. And that concludes the superintendent announcements.
Thank you. And FOIA status, please.
So submitted to resolve.
Thank you. Okay. Our next segment is recognition. In this case, employee and other. So I will start, but we will have other board members share in the accolades. So today we're pleased to continue our employee recognition program for 2023-2024 school year. This program is sponsored by Oak Park Bank, a Wintrust Community Bank. Mallory Daniels Dixon is here to present gifts to the October winners of our employee recognition program. So with that said, would you please.
I'll kick it off. So we want to start by congratulating Kevin Callaghan, who was selected as Teacher of the Month. And here are some highlights from the nominations received for Kevin. Year after year, I hear students say, Mr. C is the best teacher I ever had. Mr. Callahan takes time to individually connect with students and families, working to build a strong classroom community by celebrating and shining a spotlight on each student's personal passions, interests, and strengths. Kevin has set the bar high in the areas of rapport building, collaboration, and communication. And Kevin goes above and beyond for his students. He is extremely genuine, kind-hearted, and dedicated to his students, and is so deserving of this award. So congratulations again to Kevin. And Kevin, please, anything you'd like to say? Come on up.
Really do appreciate the recognition. I didn't prepare a speech. If I did, it probably would go way beyond time. So I'm going to keep this short. I wasn't expecting the recognition. I was ambushed last week in my classroom, and half of the class was out on a field trip. So in the picture that's included in like that, the write-up, it's just like a couple students. So unfortunately, the other students weren't able to be able to share the spotlight. Again, I'm incredibly honored. I wanted to give a special shout out to a person who's been a huge support for me throughout my career here, which started in 2010 as a teaching assistant within the team program. Fawn Joyce, who continues to be an amazing leader and support for me. I just wanted to give her a special shout out because I think she's partly behind this. Make sure I recognize her. And that's all I have to say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Don't worry about the picture.
Okay. There's.
You want this to protect your gear?
Okay. Our second honoree, I would like to extend congratulations to the October Employee of the Month, Johnny Soda.
Yeah.
Here's what are some of the highlights from the nomination received for Johnny. I was having issues with technology in my classroom, and Johnny was assigned to my ticket. He has been helping me ever since. He understands the importance of the issues impacting my classroom and seeks different ways to solve the issue. All of my interactions with Johnny have been pleasant due to his positivity. He is always willing to help with a smile on his face. So congratulations, Johnny. Is there something you'd like to say?
Change the video to.
That we have at the school, honestly, working with great leaders and great just staff allow me to be who I am and allow the things that I can accomplish to be done in the best way possible. And just the way that the community and just service that our staff have for our students make this just being here with you guys for even just, I think it's only been almost a year for me, and has been like the greatest experience ever. And I just want to say again, appreciate you guys and looking forward to being here for a little longer. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Okay.
Last but not least, we would like to extend congratulations to our volunteer of the month, Vic Vanek. Here are some of the highlights from the nominations received for Vic. Vic, an OPRF alum, partnered to lead the Husky Booster Club Events Committee to build a sense of community. Parents and staff at OPRF. Vic is always willing to explore new ideas and follow through to be sure everyone has a good time. Due to Vic's amazing efforts, the Husky Booster Club was able to raise $40,000 each of the past 2 years, benefiting many teachers' activities and sports. This busy dad and professional is the true definition of those things that are the best. Congratulations again, Vic. Is there anything you'd like to say?
Unfortunately, Mr. Vanek is not here tonight. He had a prior commitment, but he did send an email saying he wants to pass all of his thanks and appreciation to all of you.
Great. And tonight, we are excited to announce a new sustainability recognition program developed in collaboration with the students of the Environmental Club and aligned to our sustainability policy. Starting this month, we will recognize 2 sustainability champions, 1 student and 1 employee. Champions are selected based on their exemplary efforts in practicing environmental sustainability in the school and or community, advocating for environmental stewardship as a part of our school culture, and promoting environmental justice in the school and or community. So I get the distinct pleasure of the inaugural, the first to who I would call Mr. Sustainability himself, but the student sustainability champion is Senior Manuel Manolo Avalos. And here are some of the highlights from the nominations received for Manolo. And I might add a few of my own. Manolo is a passionate steward of the environment and an incredible young man. As president of the Environmental Club, he has taught me much about the initiatives of the club at OPRF. He has educated me on the OPRF's sustainability scorecard, which includes metrics about food waste and water usage. Manolo played an integral role in the inaugural OPRF thrift store, which started on Earth Day 2022 and raised more than $500. He was the primary person to sort used clothes and resell it to make money for further environmentally focused projects. Because of his activism and participation in various environmental organizations. Manolo was invited to attend the United Nations Climate Conference, Change Conference, COP27. Is it? Okay, I gotta get my number right. In Egypt last year, with adolescents like Manolo, I feel there might be hope after all for our Mother Earth. And I had the distinct pleasure of watching Manolo report out from Egypt. I don't know what time of day it was there, but it was not bad for us. So you must have borne the brunt of the time on the work they did, including meeting with former Vice President Gore, I believe, right? And a few other people who someday might be up to Manolo's level in terms of environmental passion. So with that said, congratulations, Manolo. And would you like to say anything?
Compliments. Thanks to those of you who nominated me. It's greatly appreciated. I also wanted to extend my thanks to you and OPRF for allowing students to participate in committees such as the Sustainability Committee and help us engage us with our civic, participate in our civic engagement. There is a lot that goes on behind the scenes and a lot of long hours and to craft the sustainability plan and other things. So I just want to say I recognize it and I appreciate your everyone's hard work. Besides that, there has been a lot done in regards to sustainability at our school, but there's a long road ahead for our sustainability future and goals that we put into the sustainability plan. But I know if we work together, we can stay on track and achieve those goals. So thanks again.
Not only do you get so you also have a reusable sustainable mug. So I'll leave this here for you. You can unwrap that at your own. All right. Thanks.
And congratulations are also in order for Lee Remack as our faculty sustainability champion. And here are some of the highlights from the nomination received for Lee. Ms. Remack is an example of how adults in the building can promote a positive sustainability culture through their simple everyday actions. She makes the location of recycling bins prominent in her classroom, educates and corrects students on what items are acceptable for recycle, and even goes as far as fishing out non-recyclables so that the recycling is not contaminated. Contributing to our collective effort to reduce the school's landfill waste. Care for our classrooms translate into care for our earth, and Ms. Remack embodies the good stewardship that we hope students will imitate beyond these walls. So congratulations. Thank you. Is it something you'd like to say? Obviously, I do.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to make sure that the stuff that I put one piece of garbage gets recycled. So hopefully more teachers realize that tissues and Cheetos, wrappers, and paper towels mean that whole bin doesn't go to the recycling area. So thank you for the acknowledgement, and hopefully more teachers will take their share of recycling in their classroom. Thank you.
Should I pull that up over here once we get a chance, or do we just swap it?
Well, I want to pull it up there because I'm here broadcasting from that
Oh,
one.
yeah,
I want to make sure.
and then we can just share it.
Yeah.
And I was at a sustainability meeting this week, and they were talking about recycling and how the elementary school kids seem to be better at it than the middle school kids, who are better than the high school kids in terms of being able to sort. So if anyone who wants to kind of plot that trend of what's happens to those of us that are beyond high school, we all need help. So. Okay. Our next segment is public comment. Lisa?
We do not have any public comments for tonight.
Okay. With that said, we will move on to our consent agenda. Are there any consent items that board members would like to pull for further discussion? Okay, seeing none, I will move to approve the consent items as follows. Approval of the open and closed session minutes of September 16, 21, and October 12, 2023. And the declaration that the audio tapes of the closed session minutes of January 2022 be destroyed. Approval of personnel recommendations, including new hires, transfers, resignations, and retirements. Approval of additional members of the Culture, Climate, and Behavior Committee. Approval of the September and October 23 check disbursements and financial resolutions, including payroll resolutions of November 2023. Approval of the August 2023 financial report is presented. Approval of the August 2023 treasurer's report as presented. Approval of the 2024-2025 course proposals. Approval of the Hyatt Regency contract for prom 2024 for a minimum cost of $68,000. The cost is fully funded by student tickets. No profit is made from it. Approval of the 2023-24 and 24-25 transportation extension with First Student Incorporated. Approval and recommendation of the contract extension with Zum Services Incorporated at the approximate cost for the school year 2023-24 of $93,195. Approval of the proposal and quote for American Digital for $88,523.41. Approval of the Illinois State Board of Education School Maintenance Grant for capital project projections for 2024. And approval of an increase of 9.23% to medical insurance premiums effective January 1, 2024 for an estimated cost of the district of $399,500.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Brandvoice,
Yes.
Ms. Williams-Lee,
Yes.
Dr. Livingston,
Yes.
Dr. Monroch,
Yes.
something. I got you. Mr. Brisbane,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
and Mr. Kowski.
Yes.
Our next segment is our action items, and both of our action items are going to be pulled because we will be going back into close to come back to revisit them. So we will skip over them for the moment and move on to our discussion agenda. So, will you take care of the
Yes, we have two discussion items to discuss tonight. If I could have first Ms. Cindy Guerra come on up. Ms. Parker is also on Zoom, and she is going to be there she is. We can see her now. Good to see you, Ms. Parker. And unfortunately, we aren't able to have tonight a representative because of scheduling conflicts from Oak Park Police Department. But we also have from District 97, Ms. Sparks Turner, who's part of our financing all the way through this whole process and is the lead in District 97. If there are any kind of questions that kind of speak to that broader concept. So I'm just going to begin by going through a few slides here on a presentation. So Johnny, if you could bring up the slide deck.
Give me a minute.
Probably cover these first without that deck being up, and I think it would help. Oh, no, I have it here.
There you go.
There you go.
You got it. Okay, thanks, Johnny. I appreciate it.
Please.
Okay, so for perhaps new board members who weren't here a year ago and part of this conversation or this context is needed, so I'll provide that before I pass it over to the team for the rest of what we're sharing here today. If I could have you move over to actually background on the IGA and the timeline slide, which I can the fourth one there. Yeah, there we go. Thank you. So back in the summer of 22, so really 2 summers ago, it was with the village manager and superintendent in District 97, and I came together to talk about the need to kind of formalize methods of communication with Oak Park Police Department. It was 2 years before that the board had voted to remove the SRO program from the high school, and that happened in both districts. But in doing so, the IGA that governed ways of communicating between us was also then removed. And so there was a need. Pandemic was in there. What we realized, throughout the first year back from the pandemic was there was a need to formalize these relationships for communication channels as well as other reasons. And so what you see on this slide is a timeline that results in eventually bringing the IGA that we now have in place to the board. It really was a 3-agency collaboration, and it is not the return of a traditional SRO program in any way to the school districts. It does not increase any sort of ongoing police presence within the school. It just ensures that when important incidents are going on, we have formal methods of communication and collaboration so that we can remain in tight collaboration. And that was a very deliberate effort on all 3 agencies to balance values in the district that we hold dear. And that is, of course, the safety and security of all students, faculty, any human being who comes into this building, any of our buildings, but also the very strong health equity beliefs that are a key component of our strategic plan, making sure that whatever we put in place is done so in a way that ensures that all students feel safe and have a welcoming environment. And that really is the cornerstone of the approach. And so if we could go to the next slide, it really does actually I was summarizing in some ways what I just shared with that timeline, and as well focuses on the need for safe and positive relationships. I believe now on this next slide, this is where I turn over to Ms. Parker and her team. So Ms. Parker, I'm giving it over to you. And yeah, thank you for zooming in when you're out of state. Much appreciated.
No worries at all, and thank you, and good evening, everyone. Lisa, whoever's with the slides, if you could
Linda,
go, yes,
actually.
You cannot hear me. Hold on one second. It says I'm talking.
Not muted.
You know, I don't actually believe Linda is on your side,
Can you hear me now?
just because we have the same.
Hello, can you hear me now? Give me 1 second. Can you hear me now?
I might ask you to okay.
It's part of my club.
Our mic is.
Oh, Marianne says she hears me. Can you hear me?
But I don't think they can hear me either. I
Oh, I
think
know what
it's
it is.
some tech issue.
Okay.
Linda, could we try it again?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Linda?
Yes, can you hear me now? I am speaking. Hello? Hello, can you hear me now? Hello? Marianne, can you still hear me?
Yes.
That's the microphone, the speaker. This one.
Okay.
Here we go. Here we go.
Can you hear me now, Lisa?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, sorry, something was wrong. You all weren't hearing Marianne or me. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Lisa, if you can take it to the slide that has our guiding values and beliefs.
Yes, ma'am.
And next one. Yes, thank you so much. And then I'll just say switch slides when I'm for the next one. One of the things to recognize, as Greg was saying about how this IGA came into existence, is that we had to have between D200, D97, and the village some guiding values and beliefs that led this work, because we wanted to be very intentional about who we were trying to serve and what our purpose was in bringing everyone together. So the guiding values and beliefs are shared amongst our organizations, and they center around the physical and emotional safety of students and staff as the highest priority, but also wanting to keep a lens on school safety that would make sure that there was a shared interest in creating a safe and supportive learning environment for all students. As we considered the work that had to be done, and in the absence of an SRO, we wanted to make sure that there was a partnership where we were able to work with different agencies within Oak Park to just make sure that we were being efficient and optimizing the ability to get the programming that we need to our schools and to our community as are necessary. Next slide. Partly as well, we needed to make sure that there was a formal way of having communications between especially our school districts and the Oak Park Police Department, because we wanted to be proactive in what we were doing to maintain safety at our schools. But we knew that had to be a little bit different than as it had been in the past, because there were some trust issues on a lot of sides in making sure that students and their families felt as though they were being supported by the different agencies that we are in contact with. And our school safety and emergency preparedness is very much dependent on the work we have to do with Oak Park Police Department in order to make sure that we have a strategic way of handling any crises that may occur at our schools. And so we wanted to make sure that not only were we looking at students in our school and their safety as individuals, but we were actually being intentional about anchoring that in racial justice as well, because that is where, when we were having conversations about our SRO, where some of that was falling through was with ways parents and community members of color felt this was playing out for students of color within our schools. Next slide. So some of the key, one more back, key provisions. No. That's fine. Yep. Okay, so provisions of the IGA and what was available for us. It is ensuring that we have compliance with the police department's legal obligations and the district's obligation to share information between the two agencies. In the time before we were able to create a whole IGA, we were finding that there were a lot of holes in how much information do we share and what information is important to share. And this has been cleared up with the IGA through our partnership and our school liaison that we have with the police department. That it makes sure that each agency is privy to shared information so that none of us are feeling as though we are lost as to what the other agency is doing. But it does so with clear limitations on what exactly needs to happen with police being in our school buildings. We want to make sure that things are done in a very supportive way of students, and we are willing to partner in that, but we have to make sure that we're doing that in a way that is good for our district as well as for the police department. And it does ensure that we are complying with the state requirements, because we are all required in school, our public schools, to have a law enforcement officer on our threat assessment teams. It is necessary and is essential to our work at the school. Next slide. I'm going to take a moment to have Cindy, who is there with you, to speak some about the community outreach and how we are going about this partnership. And then I'll come back at the very end to wrap us up. Cindy.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Cindy Guerra. I'm the Director of Campus Safety. So basically, what is this partnership? What does this look like from the lens of the campus safety team? It's about open and transparent communication and conversations, collaborations with all the agencies, like for instance, equity system is easy because we have such a diverse workforce, not only here in the school, but with the police department, with the other agencies, District 97 and 200, we meet monthly and bi-weekly. We share information, any and all information that involves things that emergency or safety. I have an extensive law enforcement background, so I take my job very seriously, and I take the safety of students and the staff and everyone in the building very seriously, because I know what can happen. I know what exists outside of the school. We have 3,400 students here plus staff, and those are all lives that are on my shoulders. So it's very important. I take it very seriously. I have communications with parents on a daily basis, not only communicating with parents, but also with the key stakeholders within the district. The next slide, please. What does that collaboration look like as far as law enforcement is concerned? We've had to call law enforcement when we have serious incidents that occur in the school, and they come directly to me and we deal with the issue in the prompt. But we don't only involve law enforcement when there's something going on, we also involve them when as a preventive measure, right? As an intervention. Just to give you an example, recently we had a student that was having an issue, a health problem, and I reached out to the community policing officer to get some reinforcement on different youth agencies that we can go to use our student. I've also reached out to, we recently just hosted here the fire department and the police department for a training class that involved a threat assessment and active shooter. We also had our state mandated fire drills that we had to have and our lockdown drills. And I'm happy to say that we completed them in the shortest time ever this year. It was just a little over 6 minutes. And when you think about clearing an entire building with 3,400 students, it was a great feat that we did that here. Next slide, please. So again, just to touch base on this, as far as law enforcement in the school and what incidents we call them for, it's safety concerns like threat of violence, weapons, threat of weapons, medical emergencies, and fire-related issues. Again, our state mandated drills that we have to do every year. Safety drills and planning, threat assessment team, the core threat assessment team. We just used it recently when we had an incident where we have to get together. And again, it's open communication and collaboration with everyone involved. And what's great about it, because I come from a world where it's a male-dominated field, there's so much diversity, not only in gender, but also in people's backgrounds. And their level of expertise and what they bring to the table. So when we sit down and we have these conversations, and we want to be proactive, not reactive. When we sit down and have these conversations, they're very robust and strong on all levels, just because of the diversity in the background that we have with everyone. We want to continue education and preventive programs. We keep talking to our youth. My big thing, my big question is, I go right to them. How do you feel when you come into the building? Not only our students, but also our staff. Do you feel safe coming to the building? They approach me. That's the big question that I ask, because if you feel safe and you don't have to worry about your safety, then you can worry about your education and coming to the building. Next slide, please. Again, what are the positive outcomes? We can sharing, collaborating, communication, increased awareness. When we meet our monthly meetings and our biweekly meetings, when we meet with the agencies, we discuss things that can impact all the schools. For example, an incident at the library that involves our elementary school kids, involves our high school kids. We get on the phone and talk to each other. I have a really great relationship with Lisa Starks, who's here tonight, and we're always troubleshooting and talking about what we can do to prevent things from happening, or what we can do once we've heard of something. The chief of police has my phone number. She'll call me and she'll make me aware of things that are happening around the school that is important that I need to know. And then I pass that along up my chain as well. And the next slide. I just want to say one more thing before I turn it over back to Principal Parker, but I wasn't here in 2020 when the removal of the SRO happened. And I think it's very important to repair those relationships with the police department and doing it in a holistic and equitable way. But I think it's also important to repair those relationships. So I look forward to doing that. I look forward to serving the school and continuing to keep everybody safe. Principal Parker, I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Cindy. And you'll see here on the screen that these are further areas of opportunity and things that are in the works and being planned in the meetings that Cindy shared with you. In addition to the weekly tri-agency meetings that she mentioned, and she mentioned a monthly meeting that both she, Greg, and I attend as well, in order to continue to strengthen the relationship between all of our agencies, and to understand that we have to work together to make sure that we're doing what's best for our school populations. And so these things that you see here are just some of the things that we are in discussion with, and that we have to continue planning with, and that is what our intention is as of now. But at this time, we can take any questions from the board if there are any.
Yes.
This is really a question for Cindy. Chief Guerra, I'm so thrilled that you are at OPRF. Linda shared some of the things that you've already brought to our school community just in the short time we've been here at the last meeting. You made an impact in a really short amount of time, so I'm grateful that you're here. And I know how seriously you take keeping the students and keeping the staff and then the whole school community safe. So I appreciate your work. I just wanted to clarify what happens when the police are called. So it sounds like they're only called when there's a crisis of some sort. And you said you meet them at the door of the welcoming center.
Correct.
So do they come into the building, or do they just only come in to the welcoming center and they're dealt with there?
So yeah, they come in through the Welcome Center, the main entrance. They come directly into my office. I'm usually the one making the call. So they come directly into my office, and I have all the information ready for them, and I deal with them directly. So for example, I'll give you an example of one time that the police were called. We had a student make a threat on social media where he depicted some firearms, weapons. So this is very serious. I can't just from a picture tell that firearm is a replica or it's a toy. One of them looked very real. So that was a big indicator for me, given my background, that this is something that we need to put on the police's radar. So we called the police, they came in, the police report was filed. They dealt directly with me, they had the information, and then the police took the investigation over from there.
And so they're not coming through the building, they're not walking the halls, the police are coming to the front door.
Correct, and they're coming to the front door straight into my office. The only time that the police would walk through the building is we had a medical emergency where we had a student have a seizure, and they always accompany fire. So we bring them up through the elevator and into wherever the affected student is, and then we walk out.
Oh, I mean, just on average, in a typical week, how often are the police called?
So since school started, we've had 5 instances where the police were called, and one of those is the medical emergency. So it's not a typical week where we're calling them every week, but we've had 5 incidents where we've had it's been serious enough that I had to call and make a police report.
Yes, thank you for time. And see you and hear from you, and I want to thank you. And I think some of the things you're doing is very impressive. And I think that's led to some of the atmosphere in the building. So thanks. I do have kind of a question, a follow-up from and this is more for Ms. Parker. From our meeting last year, I believe I had mentioned that in this process that we should be also engaging at least the River Forest Police and the River Forest governmental entities as well, because if we are creating guidelines and protocols, if something very serious were to occur, the Oak Park Police may not be the only responding agency. So what other agencies may be responding, I think you have to be very familiar with what our protocols and guidelines are if they're going to be a part of any kind of a response to this building. And it may well go beyond just River Forest. I mean, it may encapsulate Berlin, it may encapsulate federal agencies or whoever. But I think it's really important that people understand, because you're spending so much time creating, these protocols and guidelines, which are custom made for our district, and that anybody coming in would abide by them, all right, and understand them.
I absolutely agree. I do.
We would definitely need to have a discussion about an IGA with River Forest, only because this one is not necessarily covering that agency because they're outside of Oak Park.
Yeah, and I can add a little additional background to that as well. We didn't talk about that a year ago. So I'm a member of our River Forest Administrators collaboration that meets once a month, and Chief O'Shea is a member of that collaboration as well. So beginning last December, shortly after the board passed this IGA, I had conversations with Chief O'Shea about a similar such IGA and what might that look like between our agencies. And as you point out, there is an existing IGA. It's several years old between our agencies, and so it exists, and it's still in practice, but it needs to be polished up. In January, we've had, and a little bit into the early spring, we've had conversations about trying to get that packaged up and revised. Still a task yet to be complete, though. So on our radars, conversations have happened, but it hasn't been as of yet. Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Other questions? I had one question, which is, you mentioned the role in education to the students, and also your collaboration with the other entities. Where is, I guess, the topic of gun security and safety? Is that part of any of the dialogue that is being had?
Well,
go ahead, Cindy. Mm-hmm.
We just talked about that today. We just talked about it today. So Right.
This part of the-
Superintendent, yes.
Yeah.
We did talk about it today and, I'll let you.
And not by design,
No,
but our tri-agency meeting was today. And Ms. Starks Turner is the lead of those. She organizes the agenda and brings the topics forward. And we are having those conversations about safe gun storage and trying to figure out exactly what the role is of a school district versus, you know, the village and how we can support the village's work. Oak Park has done incredibly impressive work by passing a recent ordinance for safe gun storage. And we absolutely and completely support that ordinance. That is exactly the right thing for our village to do. And we, as a building, as a district, and at D97 as well, we have agreed that we are very willing to share out materials, information that the village has prepared and kind of in preparation for and the follow up to that village ordinance and any other additional actions that we might take, we would probably need to discuss at a board level because there would be policy implications. So, thank you. Any other questions?
Just a brief comment. Well, welcome to our district. I thought this was a nice report. And then also, it's nice to see a familiar face, and I appreciate Dr. Stark Turner spending her evening with us.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Starks, for being here tonight.
Okay. Our next topic, back for another round, is board governance and goals. So when we last met 2 weeks ago, the action was to take those various goals and put them all in a parallel format so that we kind of have a final read of them. And then get the superintendent's, guidelines on timing. Unfortunately, I mean, they came in yesterday, so we are kind of playing the game of, looking at them live to make decisions. I guess we're gonna go through we're gonna go through the ones that are changed just because we've already been through these a number of times and look to put things or make any decisions on any additions or deletions that we need to make. So that's, can we, do people have access? Because I'm looking at these, some of them I've seen, some of them are new, so. And I'm gonna try to narrate and go through as quickly as possible. Our communications and community engagement goal is as it was presented, discussed, and I would say tentatively approved, so we need not review it further unless anyone shouts at me. And that it actually holds for the dashboard for that goal as well as our governance goal. So, no changes made and no changes needed. Okay. So I'm on page 8. Did I skip one?
We should have page 4. Outreach development.
Oh, I cleared through that.
So
That's all as presented.
Too quick.
Yep.
The way the PDF got put together is the numbering starts.
Right.
Correct.
But you're right, it's the one that says D200.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at, sorry, when I say that, I'm looking at the number of the slide in the deck, which is 8, so, sorry, we've got.
So yes, I'm on facilities. So this one was modified ever so slightly in terms of putting it into a structure that parallels to show the board's role versus the administration's role. That was the extent of it, correct? So is there any further input needed on this?
I'm gonna continue where I left off at the last board meeting regarding this this particular goal, but I think it is relevant for how we look at all the goals. And I think that I'm not I'm not comfortable with racial equity being our #1 strategic planning long-term goal. I don't see language in this goal particularly about all of the about our commitment to all of the hard work that we've done around racial equity on this issue. We don't verbalize that fidelity to internally to best practices that we arrived at. I'd also like to see language about an ongoing real-time commitment to what, you know, the field of best practices with racial equity is rapidly changing. And I think we should acknowledge that if there is a moment when we're aware of an external tool of accountability that is superior to what we've used before, that we are committed to using that if we can. So, but the bigger issue that doesn't really sit well with me and why I've struggled with this over the last several meetings is I feel like, you know, I've talked to a couple board members and besides about this, but we can all agree that racial equity is a wicked, seemingly intractable problem that we are not the first group of concerned, dedicated people to pit our will against trying to provide the very best when it comes to racial equity for OPRF. I feel like it is it's folly to not very deliberately incorporate language, especially during as we craft our strategic goals for the upcoming year, that really reflects that without question that commitment to racial equity, which is our number one goal in our strategic plan. There is you know, a lot of overlap, I think, with some of these goals. I mean, this is also in and of itself a community outreach communications issue. I think that I just would like to see us do a better job in keeping that front and center in how we articulate that to both to ourselves and outwardly facing to the community. So specifically with facilities, I see there, I don't see any language around that, and I think that that's a mistake. I think we should strongly consider putting language in there. Suggesting.
One question for you.
Yes.
Why do you feel that way on this one goal and not overall for all goals?
I definitely feel that way overall for all goals.
Then why wouldn't we just do it globally rather than having it for one individual goal?
Because this was particularly an issue that we spent a lot of time on and a lot of, you know, hours spent in this room on this issue, and we arrived at a conclusion. It's something we should feel really good about, and but I think that you know, much like the same way that we in the finances goal, we say we're committed to you know, maintain fidelity to the EBF, right? With governance, we say that we're committed to a process where we are looking at analogous institutions to learn from them. And so there's this spirit of best practices that informs the other goals as well. And we should be proud of that and present that to to the community.
Well,
And I
the
think
whole
that-
statement itself says that.
Of course, but I'm talking about racial equity. I'm not comfortable with racial equity as a topic getting baked into things. And I think that we need to be, any chance, any opportunity that we get, and I think that the strategic goals being a great opportunity to do so, to craft language to remind ourselves and the public that this is our strategic plan goal number one. It's something that we are constantly thinking about. It's something that we are committed to in the best ways possible. And we're also committed to an ongoing process of learning. What is the best?
I'll just make one comment. I think it's a moot point because we spent well over a year developing and building a racial equity policy that is defining to this board and the district. Within that policy, I think there are 12 steps. And we hired and created an office of equity and student success. So I think that everything that we do in this district, all right, puts equity first and foremost. So in the goal, it does say effectively manages student-focused needs-based and equitable facilities expansion. So I think it is adequately baked in there.
That me bringing up what I'm bringing up is not in any way questioning the actions of the district. I think we have, as I said already, an outstanding equity policy. I think that we are not paying attention to the power of vocalizing this issue, keeping it front and center, as I think we just need to be very mindful of every opportunity that we have to do so. I think it's I get concerned when we, as our number one long-term strategic plan goal, that should be radiating from our specific strategic goals, and it's just not in this one from my perspective. And I think that there are simple things that we could do that are painful, that are in some ways rhetorical, that we can commit to, that would improve that.
What are the simple things? Because we've been talking about this thing for 3 months.
I think there could be language about, we're talking about the goal is that we're effectively managing student-focused, needs-based, and equitable facilities expansion and maintenance programs. So, that includes a fidelity to internal equity policy, which includes, a commitment to following this agreed upon process that is according to best practices, evidence-based. Again, much like we say in finance, we should be proud of that, is what I'm saying. We should be the same way that we're proud about using the evidence-based funding model. We should be showcasing that as something that we're proud of, and it should inform this process.
Jonathan, I'm empathetic to what you're saying. I'm struggling though to understand the specific language that you're proposing. What are the words that you want to add to this goal?
There's not again, much like in finance, saying that we are committed to using the evidence-based funding model.
Are you in the goal statement?
Yes, yeah, the actual, no, I'm sorry, the objectives. So getting into the objectives, it would be, I think, worthwhile to have language about how, that explains how we are, what are the mechanics to that goal statement that says that we are committed to effectively managing equitable facilities, right? Just like we explain with finances, how we effectively manage equitable financial decision-making through using the EBF. Is that clear? In the same way, we can say we do this, we operationalize this through our commitment to our fidelity to these tools of accountability, however we want to frame it. It's all there that we've committed to in the policy, but it's an opportunity to remind people that there are these things that we are doing that are best practices, and there's value to that. I also would like to see language too, because this is not a topic to rest our laurels on, however outstanding of a job we've done. I do want us to vocalize a commitment to learning in real time around equity and to an application of that learning in real time if the opportunity should present itself.
I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I think that's more of a global issue than it is for a specific objective in one board goal. And I'm struggling with where that becomes board work versus administrative work.
Right.
Because from a board's point of view, I believe we've already created that. All right, and we have an administration that has been charged, all right, to those ends.
I don't disagree. I feel like it comes down to the language we're using in this goal. We have an opportunity to use different language, more robust, meaningful language around equity, and we're not doing it. And I fear that if we don't prioritize
Let
that.
me make the suggestion.
Let me finish.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Well, do we need to get into board etiquette, Fred? Because we're not supposed to interrupt each other.
I understand, and that's my big bugaboo.
Okay.
But you keep talking about the language. So can you draft some language that we can find acceptable?
I've tried to use a simple, what I think is a very clear, analogous example of the best practices funding, the evidence-based funding model. Like that's something that we're proud of. Since we've been using it, it's been of a great benefit to us.
I understand.
But in the same way, why can't we say that we use these other?
How do you want to say it?
Well, racial equity assessment tool is something that we used, right? That we committed to using to inform the.
Yeah, but that's just part of the policy.
Sure, it's part of it, but
there's other steps to it as well, and they should not be ignored.
Can I suggest, it sounds, if I'm hearing you correctly, Jonathan, it sounds like you're suggesting a new objective number 5, and the objective will be in all of the above objectives, we pledge to follow the racial equity policy.
That would be a great start. Yeah.
Is there something you would want to add to that?
I do think that there's value to pointing to the work that we're committed to doing internally, that we put a lot of hard work into, but to also be open to facing outward externally, being open to things that could inform how we learn to do things the best way around racial equity, because it's our number one goal in our strategic plan. I feel like any chance that we pass on to not be very outright, very detailed around this issue is an opportunity lost.
Okay. So, to keep the topic of adding, what you're talking about is a monitoring of that policy. There are a number of these actions, when you talk about that tool and what you're referring to, that's done at a certain point in the process. The track and field project, you're not going to go out and do that was done, back when it was decided. It is not done now. So these are very tactical in certain ways, execution things that in some cases the board needs to move on. So I think some of them, to sit and say, do it for everyone might not make sense. But I do think, I don't, there could be a 5th one that does reference using the, monitoring against that policy in facilities work. It's, I guess it's explicit, it's part of, but good, yeah.
Our administrative team, after last
weeks, 2 weeks ago, for this conversation regarding the goals. We took a look at, we kind of get it, it's a draft, it's not finalized. We haven't gotten the updated language that's in the board packet today into our documents. So it is just drafts. But we did a crosswalk essentially of the board goals that have been discussed to date with our strategic plan priorities, and also the draft of superintendent goals that Tom, you and I had largely discussed, but it came from other conversations throughout. And try to see where this alignment fell. And we took a look at this alignment in kind of 2 ways. Number one, within the organizing around the strategic plan priorities, right? Of which in our earlier kind of, we're drafting our revisions to that plan, but we've added kind of a communication piece, which was not present in that strategic plan previously. And we took a look at in which areas of our strategic plan do we have board goals and or superintendent goals overlapping, right? And where do they fall? And we found explicitly, as far as the board conversations that goals were concerned, we had goals in transformative, priority 2, transformative education. We had board goals, maybe just one part of the goal, but board goals, and in priority 3, which was transformative leadership, largely an HR function, but also a professional development function as well. We found we absolutely had board goals in priority 4, which is operations and finance. And of course, kind of a new priority, if we want to call it that, communications as well. That's explicit in the first one that had been crafted with the 2. What we didn't see was a specific goal that came from the board for the first priority of our strategic plan on racial equity or equity specifically. We did see it baked into phrasing and wording in various other parts of board goals, but not a specific goal. So I think this idea of focusing on, Tim, I first heard you share it, and Tom, I hear it after review, an idea of focusing on monitoring. That's in the board's lane for sure. How exactly is this administrative team, is this school at large focused on implementing with fidelity the not only the policy of policy 712, which is our racial equity policy, but also our plan that has been developed to help roll that out. Monitoring that is something that we are focused on internally. Specifically as it relates to resource allocation. And we do see that as a board goal, and it's a superintendent goal that we have discussed. And there's a lot of overlap there, but I think, and there are, you've used frequently, Jonathan, you've used frequently the phrase external tools, right? And the racial equity analysis tool is an internally revised version of an external tool. And there are other ways we can go about similar, tools if necessary, but the point is, the policy already calls for those tools to be implemented in various places of the organization. We use that tool, for example, when Dr. Fiorenzo brought forward to us 2 weeks ago the academic catalog revisions, right? We use that tool internally, and I think in some ways what I hear you saying is there's a need to call more kind of public vocal attention to such things. But perhaps even a monitoring of not just the public version of such things, but the fidelity of implementation that might be a little bit more internal than external. So I don't know if that there's parts of this conversation, honestly, that resonate with me in ways that are true to the conversation we've had internally. And I think in some ways we began to discuss this in ways that this is like pushing us in a whole new direction. And I guess I just want to throw out that what I hear here doesn't necessarily push our district or our goals or what we're thinking about strategically in a new direction at all. This is what we're focusing on. And it has, though, I think, if you put it in the context of our strategic plan, to reiterate that point, it is something that explicitly at that level has been absent in the conversations that we've had to date. And whether that's, maybe the board is satisfied with that being covered, because we have a strategic plan after all that does it, and we are going to be implementing that, continue to implement that plan and procedure. But now I'm rambling, but I hope that kind of helped to, and I can share kind of a draft of this, or maybe when it gets a little more finalized with the board, but it's really that sync between those 3 things that really matters for us as a team. The board's gonna have goals, we're gonna be responsible for some of it,
we're gonna be doing all this, we need to make sure that there's some harmony between these three different ways that kind of actions are prescribed for the district. So.
Marianne. Sorry, guys. I think this is quick. And I'm sorry, I was really sick yesterday. So that's why I've had video off. I'm not doing great, but I'm better. All I'm seeing Jonathan saying, I feel like this is an easy fix in that if you look at the finance page, there's a line there that references the evidence-based funding model. It's, sorry, I had it open and I've closed it again, but if there can be a similar page, a similar line on the other pages for consistency, that would be, I think that's what he's asking for. And I, just in terms of consistency of practice, that seems to make sense to me.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, I guess, and that's fine. I just think we need to think, the cycle and what's involved. Just the evidence-based funding model is part of an annual process that every year we go through and we do that. So it will happen this year. It will happen next year. So this is this year's goals. And so this says we will use it this year when we do our work. For facilities, if you look at this, these things kind of come and go. And so I have no problem putting it in, but that decision making, that evaluation is an upfront at the beginning of a next phase that we should do that. And so if we have in our forward plan that we're going to be doing that, I mean, we can't do it for the track and field. It's the what that's done, right? Most of what here is behind us. We're beyond that phase. For anything, any decisions that are made regarding facilities need to be there. So if we can put it in that as part of any new decisions that are being made, if we use that, that's fine. But I do think there's a difference in my perspective between the two. One's a regular cycle and we're saying we're going to do it. The other one is we're at a certain phase in the work. That's the mechanical side to it from my perspective.
Can I suggest something?
Yes.
So throughout our goals retreat discussions, we said consciously, we're not going to have a standalone goal that is just equity. We said, we look at everything through an equity lens and it applies to everything universal. And for that reason, there isn't a standalone goal. And then when we developed these goals, we did manage, at least in the goal statement, to try to pepper in the word equity or equitable. So if I can paraphrase what I think Jonathan's saying is that, one angle on the box is trusting ourselves to always remember to put the equity lens on everything we're doing. Another angle to the box would be just a little more repetition and reinforcement and explicit language where it makes sense. So then when you think about the table format, one thing we could have done is add another column and say, how are we addressing equity on each one of these things? But to your point, Tom, the ship has sailed on a couple of these things, and a read was done on, for example, how are we looking at project 2? So if you look at the line items in facilities, there's one there that says sustainability plan. And that third column, inclusive of ... I put that in there specifically to act as a catch-all. So I think potentially a simple fix would be adding another bullet in the inclusive column under the item sustainability plan, apply a REIT analysis to the sustainability plan. And in that way, we would be providing more explicit calling out, reinforcement, repetition, and so forth. Would that approach help address your concerns?
Absolutely.
So I think that's just a couple of language tweaks.
That's a solution. Yeah, Fred?
Yeah, just first a quick response to what Graham said. I have a problem with just using the racial equity implementation tool because there are so many other aspects to our racial equity policy. I think back to prior to Dr. Pruitt Adams, when she came in, she kind of revised the way that we do business as a board. And everything that's on an agenda, all right, she tied to the strategic plan and a board policy.
Yes.
Okay, which greatly helped us as board members focus on what it was really board work. All right, and not getting involved too much in the weeds. One of the things that I'm thinking is that as we move forward and within the policy, is there a way when we get to decision making, all right, and we're voting on something, that the administration, all right, would report to us as to how the administration has analyzed it, and determined that it's complying with our policy. Does that make any sense? So that I'm looking more globally than is an operation as we operate as a board, and not into one specific goal or another.
I need clarity on this. So I heard two things, but I think what you meant. So first of all, when you're referencing, all of our board items, they do have the tag, on the end of them, where they do reference the area of the strategic plan and board policy. Board goals have been TBD to date, but up until that, we do still reference those policies. You're specifically, Fred, talking about policy 712.
Right. And
when we have, board agendas that require action, perhaps even discussion items that are of high importance, like the IGA that we had today, that we speak specifically to how it syncs up with our implementation of that policy and the plan that's designed to support. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, so we've had very parallel conversations internally about that. So it's kind of ironic. Very parallel conversations, and I'll leave it at that.
And by doing that gives us, as the board, fulfills our obligation of the monitoring of the policy.
Yep.
It does, and I'm thinking to what Graham said around, do we just add another column around how are we gonna track this from an equity perspective? There's an element of this is public and what goes out. And if we are very intentional about equity, about being important, and it shows up as something that is part of our thinking and part of our integration, I think we could put it in as a bullet. I think that if you put it in as here's one of the things we're looking at on an ongoing basis, it helps us better define our roles, and it helps the public to see that it's something that's very important to the board, and it stays up there. So I think of from a communication perspective, that if there's a column that said, whatever the language is, kind of equity lens, or whatever you want to call it, and we have how we're going to look at that could also help make sure that we don't lose track of that, and then help communicate that that's important to us.
And I'll just add that this is, always remember, it's important for future boards, right? It won't always be us. So if this is, it's helpful to document this and put it down because we can say, well, we're already doing this, but once you put it as a goal, it becomes something that can be referenced and argued for and discussed going forward in a very concrete way. So.
So I'm hearing a couple different avenues here. From the very technical, kind of just adding it into the one item, to a more universal one, which is having having presentations that or requests that come before the board be addressed how they fit within our equity policy. And then Audrey, you were kind of just saying, because again, I'm looking at this one and there's and having our board goals. The question is it who's doing the work, right? The board is asking the administration to always present the information in that fashion. So it's really an ask of the administration. That's really the board's job right there. Done. Right? Everything, when you present to me, I want to know how it applies to and what we've done related to our equity policy. That's it. But and I'm saying that that's huge in terms of what it means, but where does it fit within our goals? That's the kind of conundrum I'm saying. So, and that's almost more of a, go ahead, Graham.
Yeah, and I'm actually not thinking, when I said that, maybe we could have added a column, that was intended more as an offhand, I was thinking it made more sense to insert specifically where I thought it best needed a reinforcement. But another thing you could do is under the second sentence of every goal statement could be the objectives pursued herein will adhere to policy 7.12 as a way to simply reinforce, because there's a balancing act here. I mean, I understand you want to reinforce what we're saying to our community and our school about the importance of equity, but we could quickly get wrapped around the axle if we're trying to, verbally gymnastic it all into every line and column.
Yeah, I mean, it's the other elements of the strategic plan, which has our values and our mission, and all of those pieces are all there. So these are all just different pieces to the puzzle, because I'm going to take your comment, right? And I'm going to add in policy, our other policies, because we need to adhere to those policies. So I'm struggling with just adding that to everyone.
Well, I mean, coming back to it being our number one strategic planning long-term goal, I see it being woefully not present in how we are articulating its board goals. I think we're not seizing that opportunity to in greater detail explain some of the good work that we've done with our equity policy and what some of those tools are, how they apply to these specific goals, maintaining the fidelity, integrity of our commitment to the racial equity policy. I think that we always need to look at these moments when we come together to look at strategic goals and remind ourselves that it's always an opportunity to put it front and center, use language to remind ourselves and the public that this is our number one priority. And I just don't think we adequately do it right at this point.
What if we made adherence to the racial equity policy goal number 7 with the objective that there will be an explanation as to what Fred and Greg just spoke to, that the objective is that for every board action, there will be an explanation of how it fits within that policy.
I'm good with that. I would make that goal 1, move everything else down. Frankly.
So that would be just a monitor policy 7.12. 7.12.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I never know whether to jump in or not. I just want to, this is a clarifying question for me, and I'm sorry, I do not have our strategic plan memorized. It's the strategic plan references specifically the racial equity policy and not a general equity policy. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. so I'm not opening this can of fish, whatever can of worms, today, but the next time we look at the strategic plan, I kind of feel like we should talk about whether it should be a general equity policy rather than a racial one. So, so sort of bracketing that and putting it to the side. And I think that was formulated before I was on the board, unless I'm really misremembering. But the relevant piece here, I'm hearing 3 possibilities, and so I just want to check. So one possibility was asking administration to put everything they present to us through a racial equity lens as part of the process, right? So that's like the ask of administration. One is a communications thing to the general public that I think that it sounds like could be addressed either with a overarching thing at the beginning of this document or a line that gets added to the objectives on each subheading. I guess those are the 2 things that I'm hearing. Is that where we are?
Yeah, I would agree, Mary. Yeah, Mary, that's good summary.
Okay, so, all right, I think I'm basically, I guess I'm saying I'm fine with any of those options, so I'll turn it over to y'all again now.
As long as they're comfortable with adding another statement. I know we didn't want to do it separately at first, but they're comfortable with doing that.
Another,
Like, you know, the overarching, type of whether we should have an overarching or not.
A new goal.
Everybody's comfortable with the goal, is an overarching goal.
a new goal, that's a general, is an equity goal. So we're gonna go against what we initially said, we had our big forum, so
We're gonna say, Gil, you're wrong.
we're gonna say everything we did there, we're going backwards. So all of
Stop here.
okay,
I think it's that, and then Greg shared that there's parallel thinking for the administration around kind of how what you're doing
Yeah, and
fits with that, so.
yeah, and just to reiterate that other point too, yes, that's true. Also, actually, to amplify that, we also have a model right around us that is doing something very similar. The Village of Oak Park includes, I believe, such a statement of sorts with many, if not all, of their items.
Okay.
So, you know, we'll take a little while to build this up and roll it out and figure out what way we're comfortable with, but that's a possibility. The other thing is really by doing what just described, what the board is essentially doing with its goals, whether it was intended that way or not, but it's falling out that way. Here is your strategic plan with your 5 priorities. They're putting their thumb on the scale of certain components of that strategic plan for each of those priorities, right? We're adding kind of direction and weight to, at this point, every area of the strategic plan, if that's what happens. And for members of my team, I will say that that type of clarity and parallelism is very much appreciated, right? So we know that we're working in the same direction collectively. So I think.
so the action here then is a new goal statement that is racial equity in alignment with the strategic plan, right? And then there's gonna have to be objectives within that statement. So, and we are, I mean, it is sprinkled in here, but it needs to be implicit then, so. So are you willing to draft?
Yeah. Yeah.
Within,
I'd be happy to work with Dr. Lucas and put that together.
so we need something to review and then. And in alignment with what is board work, what is administration work, very tangible. This is we need to get down to what we're gonna do. Not pie in the sky, visionary. We've got the vision in the strategic plan, et cetera. This has to be, this is what we're gonna do. So, okay, that's. And then that leaves then the facilities goal intact, right?
Yeah.
Because that'll be covered elsewhere. So we can check that one. Finance goal, questions?
I just had one item on the finance goal.
Yes, please.
Objective one. I could easily, especially if you look at the overall district dashboard.
Yes.
In a slightly faster pace than this, I will probably want us to press CFC to give us their opinions on questions about what relevant data they think should be in the dashboard. So it'll probably be sooner than March 24 by the time we're asking the CFC for their.
And to connect the dots, the CFC was very interested in what our goals are and what our expectations are for them, because then we need to schedule the timing and such, so it is gonna collapse, and March is gonna be here before you breathe, before we finish this discussion. Okay, so, yes. Sooner is always good. All right, anything else on that? We move to our school environment. Questions, comments? Again, this one was here, the only main interest change was really clarifying the board's role, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So that puts us to, where am I? Learning environment, which is which number?
Slide 14.
Slide 14. Thank you.
Okay.
So my question on this one is, this is a board goal, and there's nothing in it that the board is doing. I love those. Right?
I don't.
I know. I'm just kidding. So I'm confused, or I need clarification. What is our role here? These are our goals, not the Greg's goals. This is what we're gonna get done, which will feed what he gets done, et cetera.
Okay, I'm sorry, you're looking at ours, right? Thriving learning environment. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm on, yes, Marianne, I'm on
Sorry.
number.
Sorry. All right, guys, I had a fever of 100 yesterday when I was converting this, and I apologize, but I don't even know. I think I just forgot to put in that the role is simply to monitor. I think these are already in place. For number 1, number 2, number 5, and 6 are in place, and there are reports that we get on them, and so the board is to monitor the reports. For number 4, we're going to get a report, a new report we're asking for on the support services, and we would then monitor that report. And then number 3, this one is, a little bit wobblier in that it's for Greg to figure out with his team what makes sense to them. But that one also would be a monitor. So I'm not sure what Jonathan, do you want to jump in? Is there anything I'm missing here about what else the board should be doing other than paying attention to the reports and asking questions?
I think that's largely right, that these are monitoring. Those are the actions.
Well, I would say numbers 3, the ones that monitor, it has to exist, right?
Right.
It's already in place and it's monitored. So 1, 2,
5 and 6, right?
5 and 6 could just be put monitor.
Okay.
Which leaves us with 3 and 4, right?
I still think it's monitoring. It's just, we just haven't started getting those reports yet, but.
But do we know, I mean, if it's new, do we need to define what it is that we're looking for? And approve, or whatever it is. It's kind of more, I kind of look at it this way, Marianne, you build, right? And then you monitor. So,
Okay, so is there a different language for what would the board evaluate those initial reports?
Let me add one caveat. Sorry, Mary, I'm not responding.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I think I'm
Answer
sorry.
that question.
Yeah.
Number 4,
Mhm.
enable students to take full advantage of support services. This is certainly nothing new, right?
Yes.
Providing support services, whether we're talking about in our counseling office with our social workers and folks in our student services offices, or we're talking about our MTSS system, or, our multi-tiered systems of support and how we implement that. That certainly is nothing new to this district. And it's actually nothing new to board reports, right? We've shared information about that in the past several years. So I think that could comfortably be placed in place kind of in your category, monitoring category. Now, the alternative learning approaches as defined here, that's new turf. I mean, our admin team going to places and learning things and reading and learning things, I don't want to get the wrong record, that's not new. But reporting this out would be new turf for us.
I think yeah. So if it's new turf, and again, like, we don't need to, just to be clear, I don't think the board needs to hear everything you guys are learning and considering. It's more like, what are the things that you think should be brought to the board's attention? What are the new things coming down the pike, whether it's legislation or you're considering a restructuring of curriculum or whatever it might be, right? Like, I don't know. I like to anticipate. I like to plan ahead. So that's kind of where that's driving my desire for this in some format.
But this is, again, and there's the different, this is very, I'm in the very mechanical side of this is our goal. This is what we're giving them to do. And anything that's left to interpretation runs the risk of, wasted time and energy. So as long as you feel it's understandable, then yes, you need to say, I understand it, and here's what I need. We want to avoid situations where you're going off and doing work, and then you come back and we say, what are you doing? Right? We need to give clear guidance on what it is we want, and then you feedback. So if you're good, I'm good. You're the recipient of this. You need more.
Thanks, Tom. I feel confident, comfortable enough to take a crack at this, right? I don't know that, Marianne, you've been very kind of transparent and open about your thinking about this. You said you're not exactly sure what you want this to look like either. And so as long as we understand that, we'll put something together. And here's what I would appreciate in response to yours. We'll take a swing at this. We'll see how we hit the ball. The revision of this, the improvements of this would be for a subsequent year, right? I wouldn't want something to, go, hey, two weeks from now, bring this thing back to us. Fair?
I think that
a little
sounds
different than
great.
some other conversations
So
we've had.
our role would be to, kind of review and approve what you bring forward. That's what
Sure. And listen,
going forward.
Yeah, action 1 is you're going to present what you think we think that you think we want, right?
and honestly, if you can take a swing at it, and if you present it, and then the rest of the board is like, yeah, this is not useful, we don't want you spending any more time on this. That's also like, okay, like, I will live with that. So just, but if you can take a stab at it, that would be great.
Thank you.
All right. So,
And then we got rid of the tech report. So the
yeah,
tech-
so the main change here is bringing forth a singular racial equity goal with specific objectives and adding a little bit of information on the board role and goal number blank. Okay, so the next step is to take and put these in so that they're one set, you know, numbered sequentially, etc. Okay, you can do that, right? You get rid of the smart fluff and other stuff, just down to the goals, the work, right? And then you're gonna look at them.
Yep.
Where it says board, you know, members, I'm gonna take a swing at starting to delegate and say, you know, Graham, you do this one, Fred, you do, Greg, start putting some resources behind them. Who's gonna do what? That's our next step. So we're kind of tentatively approving with the exception of we'll need to see what our racial equity goal covers. Okay. All right. We're in the section of board governance and goals. I have a couple others of things I wanted to talk about. One is covered in the goals, so that's good. The other one is governance. We need to have a norms session, right, on how we do our work. You know, how we want to do it. We've had kind of different pieces, but we need to get down to spend some time doing that. That's typically done with a IASB rep in closed session. They're now available starting in January, and I'm kind of impatient. So our other choice is to do it, you know, in an open, but just spend some time coming up with some key norms for us to work as a team. Okay, I'm looking at this process of us putting these goals together and what can we learn about it and how can we get our board work done and how can we work together. So my question for the team is, you know, does anyone else see the need to do that?
Yes.
Okay. And how burning of a need, meaning do we need to accelerate and just do it regardless of, you know, whether we do it with IASB or do we wait until we'll be January or probably February?
My preference is sooner.
I'm with you.
Are there existing written norms that past boards have used or adhered to that would use the starting point? That it seems like that would really speed the conversation.
This board, to my knowledge, no, and that's a decade. Most of our, and I don't even call them norms, most of our agreements are really us to the superintendent to us, not us as a team, which is a different dynamic. Okay, so I mean, you've been on other boards. I mean, they're probably.
Didn't we get a little dose of this the last time ISB was here just about a month ago? Or, you know, when we did that little routine. And then also, you know, if you look at governance goal 1 Adam, that says by 11:30 we will have aligned and documented norms.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying.
yeah.
That one's coming at us, and so I think we're saying we need to get that. So again, what IASB had was all mostly us to him and him to us, not.
Yeah, but there was a little bit in there about, you know, good faith, working together and communicating. so forth.
And
I'm sure, well, I'm sure there's something.
Yes.
Unified out there relative to nonprofit boards or school boards and norms and things like that.
I agree. I think the raw starter material version probably exists.
Correct.
And there was even mentioned here, suggest mechanics, a two-person board work team. I bet you two people could slap together.
Yes, that's.
I was about to say that.
That's what I'm saying, that this one, that's the way to do it and come to the board and then we can have a discussion rather than starting from scratch. Whether that discussion is, you go to District XYZ that's done all this and you say, that's a great start. So, yes, so that will be part of that is in one Apple, Adam, whatever.
Goal area G1 governance.
All right, it is in governance, which is where we're good. So that's the action. Yes, sir.
No, I'm all for this. I would suggest that maybe reach out to the IASB to see if they have any materials.
Yes.
Even if we don't have a facilitator, they may have some materials that we can
There's
review.
information out there we can use.
Okay. All right, very good. And the last item I had in this, anything else on that? We're good. Okay, the last item is just a preview of what we will be doing in a mere 7 days. Because everyone knows that we have the Thanksgiving shuffle, and so we have cow next week. And I believe on the agenda for next week will be a review of ISB
resolution.
Oh, the resolutions.
Resolutions. Okay, and just what does that mean? I just want to alert you of what it means and what we've done as a district here most recently, which is, so there's a whole series of resolutions that we as a member have a vote on, a voice in as part of the annual ISB convention, whatever.
Yeah, track horse.
Conference, okay. We have a voice and a vote. So what we will be doing a week from today is we will be going through them and straw polling, not voting per se, straw polling amongst us of what our position will be on all of those various issues so that we can then take our collective voice to the conference, okay? So I share that because you'll get a packet, you should have received this information and it's got all of these resolutions and how many are there? There's
5. It was actually uploaded in the end of the week notes last week. It's only 5.
Wow.
Okay, so read them and be prepared to, provide your perspective. Yes, sir.
The other thing I was going to say is that we also many times have the opportunity to voice an opinion.
Yes.
At that meeting. So it's not just say, okay, we're going to vote for A and we're going to vote no on B. But if we feel very strongly about something, we can get up to the mic and provide an argument and provide a perspective in front of to all the rest of the delegates there.
Yeah. So just wanted to prep because it won't take that long, but just be prepared is what I'm asking you. So that we can provide our best collective input. This is a chance to have a say in the resolutions that are then enacted, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, that's for governance. And with that said, that concludes our discussion section. Information.
The only item we have for information is our school profile. We provide that to the board every school year, just as an FYI. The profile serves our needs in a variety of ways, but mostly for our students as they apply for post-secondary education. So it is provided here in the board initially saw this. We had somebody kind of editorial collection, so we were able to fix that up. So thank you for that.
Okay. And our last main item is the district, community, state, and committee reports. So we'll just click through, and if there's any information to share with your fellow board members as I read them off. Superintendent, Student Advisory Council.
No new updates. There's a board vote that links directly to this council, and look forward to seeing that.
iGov.
Well, Tom and I were both there, and they somehow talked me into becoming chair. So, but they told me it is very little. I just have to try and keep the meeting on time, basically. So, but we decided to, and I'm sorry, I didn't take notes because keeping the meeting on time turned out to be very difficult. But we are still planning to do the mental health forum, but we decided that timeline for fall was wildly overambitious, and it's been pushed off towards, I think we're actually looking at March, April for a more realistic forum, and there are people doing outreach to the relevant committees. Tom, do you want to add anything? I think that was the main two things.
Oh, I think you covered it.
Yeah.
Okay, Community Finance Committee, there are notes that were attached. So I have nothing to offer beyond the notes. If there are questions, I'll field them. CCB?
So we introduced a new process led by Linda Parker, where we are on a month-to-month basis picking a topic that has been submitted by one of the committee members for further discussion and exploration, and we it was really I think very productive. We split up into working groups, sorting through different elements of what this topic would, and in this case, a pure jury, what that would look like, and had a very robust discussion around that. So I think we are comfortable with that structure and process going forward for the CCD meetings, and we kind of loosely have a bit of a check-in breakout or a check-in session prior to the monthly meeting where we kind of firm up what we're focusing on. I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Thank you. Apple?
Nothing to report. I had COVID and I missed the meeting, but I have traded messages with Melody McQueen, and we're getting together to talk through just some needs for Apple and some questions that she has and some things she wants to follow up on. I shared the message with Tom and Greg as well to follow up. So we are working our way through that.
Can I just ask, I still have Apple on my calendar because I'm not on it anymore, right? Is that correct?
Right. Yeah, right. I take that over, Marianne.
Okay, thank you.
Sustainability. I guess that's me.
I think it is.
We had a meeting this week and provided, I would say, there was my simpler dual focus. One was really an update on the scorecard of progress to a number of the key initiatives where progress is being made in the plan and where it's not. And the second one was really, I guess, a geothermal 101 presentation by an energy partner that we have that I thought was pretty good, just to kind of geothermal for a moron. So I kind of fit the moron side. Did I miss anything?
No, a little bit overview of LEED certification process for projects.
Facilities?
If I miss anything, Greg, just please, because I'm just doing this on another. we met and kind of went through the different projects that are going on. We've got the, obviously the tennis courts, which is winding down. Hopefully, it's supposed to be finished this month, but probably will bleed into some other time, right?
Did you say tennis court? Track.
I meant the track.
For the record, tennis courts are done.
Yeah, tennis courts are done, they're, yes. So I meant the track and field, I'm sorry. But there's field work going on at Ridgeland, if you haven't seen. All right, the other thing was the closeout of project one. There was, what did he say, 165 punch list items?
Yeah, they were whittling that down. I think they're on 115 of that list.
Right, which he did not feel this, it sounds like a big number to us, but it's people in the construction field, I guess, that's like coming down to the end of it. Then we had conversations about the sustainability or the geothermal part of the project too, and that there's an RFP out, right? Is that what he said?
The RFP had been out. We've done our interview process. And actually, it's the same energy company partner that.
Okay, they gave them. Right, and so in any event, they felt very comfortable in being able to hit our timeline and coming to the board with the sustainability proposal in time to include it for our, in the decision making process of what needs to be done going forward with project two. And that was really about it.
I think that's right. Thank you. Community council?
It might be you.
I guess that's me. We, community council saw the same presentation that Principal Parker gave the board last week.
Thank you. Boosters. You were one and done, or you said you?
I don't, actually, I do wonder, do we have a, I don't believe we have a permanent rep. And I
filled in.
discussed that.
Oh, yeah,
You did a great job. I mean, encore is what I've heard them saying.
that's why you somehow thought I was.
I think I heard them saying encore. Okay, Graham, we'll put Graham there. Applause.
Okay, that's me. I went to the meeting. This is not the point where we're discussing which of these committees we should sunset board participation on.
No, this is just an update of the last meeting.
I went to the meeting. Their meetings are extremely logistical. They are very fine-grained, figuring out ticket sales and who's going to be manning which table at the next event kind of thing. And I actually did say at that meeting that it would perhaps be more productive if a board member met with the president, once a semester or something, and got a sort of like a sense of like, what would the arts at OPRF like the board to be aware of, or the arts parents, I guess. So that's kind of where things are right now. Yeah, there was nothing at the actual meeting that the board needs to be aware of.
But that was consistent with the boosters meeting where they were kicking off the school year. They asked for a board member to be present for the kickoff meeting, and then I don't think we're needing to keep going. Unless they have a specific request.
But I think that's Marion, your question. I think, until we address the goal of what we're gonna do, I think it is worthy that when you're present, we just ask, we try to assess what their expectations and needs are of a board member. That's part of our decision-making process. If the answer is that they're logistical and they're saying, why are you here, Marianne, right? Unless you are an expert on ticket sales, then we kind of can say they only expect us there once a year. Okay. Lastly, alumni.
Yes, so the Alumni Association I believe Monday night was the reception for the summer enrichment grants. Unfortunately, I was not able to attend it. I had another commitment. But Greg, were you there? I'm assuming.
I was not there.
Okay. But I assume it went off well. I didn't hear anything about it. And it's just kind of the kids coming back and talking about their experiences in their summer programs that they had last year or last summer. Things are going forward with the program for next summer. And then also last weekend was the last weekend of alumni tours. On Saturday, we had the class of 1958 and the class of 1973. And I would guess there would probably have been maybe 45 to 50 people attending. There were two tour groups that went through the building. A lot of great conversation and I think everybody was equally amazed at what goes on in this building. Because as you tour, you get to show them, not just all the new construction, but you show them the fine arts areas and what goes on there, and you show them the performing arts areas and the athletic areas and all these. You talk about the 90 plus activities that we have, and they're just amazed. So a lot of great information to some alumni. Hopefully they'll be very supportive.
Right, thank you. Okay, on our agenda, are there any future agenda items? We're gonna come back, so but we'll cover it now while it's fresh in our minds. Future agenda items.
Have we set a date for evaluating and acting on all of the past future agenda items?
Tom and I talked about it at our last meeting, not today, but the one from last week, and they will be on the agenda as a policy item a week from tonight.
And this is not an agenda item, but I just wanted to say I got a very nice report back from my 8th grader on his on the tour of OPRF. He thought it was terrific and was very impressed. So just passing that along to Greg and the team.
Thank you. Okay, with that said, we will now, well.
Can I just make a quick correction on something? As far as public comments, I actually do have one to be written in minutes. I kind of overlooked it, my bad, but we do have one public comment for tonight's meeting.
Thank you. Okay. So we will now recess open session to return to closed session for those who were involved and need to be involved. Yeah, you can do it. All right, I'm gonna.
Okay.
All right. Use the restroom. You are on this go.
Okay, Marianne, can you hear us?
Yes.
Good evening. We are resuming open session. And with that said, we will attend to our action items. And our first action item is I move to direct legal counsel.
Can you hear us?
Whoop,
Hold on, sorry.
Yes.
Turn it off.
good evening. We are resuming open session.
Sorry.
Are we ready again?
Go ahead, sorry.
So take two from the top. We are resuming open session and we'll attend to our action items. Our first action item, I move to direct legal counsel to prepare a written step 4 decision as discussed in closed session and ask for a second.
Second.
Is there any discussion? May we please have a roll call?
Ms. Williams Lee,
Yes.
Dr. Livingston,
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane,
Yes.
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
Dr. Maharaj,
Yes.
Mr. Brownhorse.
Yes.
And Mr. Kosky.
Yes, the motion passes 7-0. And our second action is I move to approve the resolution authorizing honorable dismissal of full-time educational support personnel. Can I ask for a second?
Second.
And any discussion? Okay, a roll call, please.
Mr. Arkin,
Yes.
Ms. Williams Lee,
Yes.
Dr. Livingston,
Yes.
Dr. Maharaj,
Yes.
Mr. Brownhorse.
Yes.
Mr. Brisbane,
Yes.
and Mr. Kosky.
Yes, the motion passes 7-0, and that completes our action for this evening. I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We are done. Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.